Hey guys, I want to talk to you really quick about Joe Rogan. We probably all know who Joe Rogan is, a UFC talk show host, whatever, and probably one of the most well-known and successful podcast hosts of all time. He has had a vast range of people on his podcast that are completely not available to the regular podcast person from all walks of life. And what's unique and impressive about Joe Rogan's podcast is he gives them a chance to talk. He doesn't really belittle people or argue with people. He asks them to elaborate. And if you're watching this video, you probably already know that. But it makes for a very entertaining podcast, and the range of people and the range of opinions that he presents is vast. Now, Rogan is on every mainstream news outlet right now. Some artist just threatened to pull his music from Spotify if Spotify did not pull Rogan. And he has always been pretty close to the limelight. And what I have to talk to you about today is what's called a mosaic attack. So we are going to talk about whether Joe Rogan is an advocate of freedom and liberty or controlled opposition, and what does that even mean? And what is a mosaic attack? So I have worked myself with Psyops in Afghanistan. I have a friend who worked Psyops, who I talk to quite often. And what a mosaic attack is, or how it works, is you are building different colors and layers of information and misinformation to distort reality for your own gain. Like looking at or through mosaic glass and seeing the true picture on the other side, you have all of these different colors distorting the true picture. And how this plays into Psyops as it is performed overseas and at home as well is you need to have controlled opposition to make your points work. You need to distract and you need to redirect. You need to have not only both sides of an argument, but 100 sides of the argument openly displayed in the information that you put out. You need to have all kinds of other topics being brought up alongside the topic that you want to assault, and you want to misdirect. So let me make an example. Let's say we have, every Democrat on one side, and on the other side we have, say, Dan Crenshaw, Ted Cruz, and a bunch of other people. We have this big argument. But you're pulling the strings of both sides of the argument. They can argue 100 different topics, but you want them all to say or push the same thing on one topic. Or you want one side to argue against the idea that you want pushed in a way that actually promotes it. So this sounds complicated. I want to make it easy for you. When you're looking at politics, You look at politics from your perspective. An ant, a pawn, a tiny speck of nothing with a sphere of information that is minuscule, looking at these massive turning pictures. It's hard to get context of what's actually going on, and in reality, it's impossible to know exactly what's going on for us peasants. What I want you to do, however, is to change your perspective. What I want you to do is envision yourself as an older brother with like 10 younger children, and you have bad intentions. You want to lie on your brothers and sisters, you want to cheat, you want to do whatever you can do to screw them over while mommy and daddy still love you best. How are you going to manipulate situations to your gain, positive or negative? You see, intrinsically, we are all liars. Every one of us has told countless lies. We understand lying. We have difficulty understanding other people lying and other people manipulating. The image that we are given of our politicians is an image of incompetence. Because you probably don't have the same reaction to someone failing due to their incompetence as someone enslaving you purposefully. So, with all of that said, we have Joe Rogan. The people talking about him right now, for the most part, is libertarians, Second Amendment advocates, the gun community, the gun culture. I don't even always remember what the difference is. Freedom-minded people, because we like, and I'm using the term we like the fact that Joe Rogan brings a wide variety of topics and opinions to us without inputting his own bias. What this boils down to is we like Joe Rogan. If you like any person too much, for example, Donald Trump, Joe Rogan, Ted Cruz, Joe Biden. I don't know if anybody actually likes Joe Biden, but some people say that they do. You are opening yourself to being manipulated, especially when they're a politician or a person in the limelight. Because what people don't realize is while Joe Rogan may talk about a wide variety of topics, he also openly endorsed a socialist to be president of the United States. This is where this gets a little bit more poignant, and I have an example here. You're all probably familiar with this meme, people who watch this channel, I'm guessing. I've seen it almost everywhere. And a lot of times, this meme entails Joe Rogan being president, everybody gets free DMT or something like that, and the head of the media or the only media is Alex Jones. Now, of course, this is fascist, right? When you have someone at the head of, this is a joke, but it's a joke that spins these supposedly conservatives as having great centralized power over the government in a positive light. This is how Psyops works. It makes you like the idea of your team winning at any cost. The goal that we should be looking at is nobody having this centralized power. And my case in point is old boy J.C. Humphreys here. Now, J.C. Humphreys primarily is known as a Second Amendment advocate. Admittedly, he doesn't have any background in military or law enforcement or anything else, and he's a former Obama voter. So he would be viewed as a success story. Someone who came over from the other side. Someone who actually thought that Barack Obama could, for some reason, be good for this country. Someone who did not necessarily put life, liberty, or the pursuit of happiness above equality? Whatever it was that old Hussein was selling. If you had a brain, you shouldn't have been buying it. However, we are all on a path, and I want you to understand this. We are all on a path to becoming more wise, to opening our eyes, right? And not everybody has this background in Psyops with the military or a degree in domestic terrorism and homeland security like I do. So a lot of these pictures that I'm trying to share with people in a format that's very easy to understand, these pictures, people aren't getting them. They're not seeing the picture. And so he shared this meme, and when I mentioned that the dude's a socialist and that the post is fascist, instead of actually trying to find out what I was saying, he attacked me and began asking me in what podcast did I find him supporting a socialist. He only talked to Bernie Sanders, and just because he talked to Bernie Sanders doesn't mean that he supports Bernie Sanders. This is where we get into how you view people as individuals. Because this opinion of his I see repeated over and over and over again. I keep mentioning that Joe Rogan openly endorsed Bernie Sanders for president of the United States, and people keep asking me where. 1 second of